Hey everyone, and welcome as we continue our study through the New Testament. We're continuing this 200, looking at the 250 events in the life of Jesus, and we're doing it chronologically, and we're looking at Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and right now we're in the Sermon on the Mount, and we've reached Matthew 6, which is about halfway through where we're at because it's Matthew 5 through 7. And today we're going to look at fasting. I'm going to be honest with you, this is going to be a short video, so I'm going to say this up front. I appreciate all y'all for watching and continue to watch these. And if you haven't, subscribe to our channel because we're just putting out short little videos every single day, just walking through small sections of the Bible and learning about them as we go. And I'm hoping that they'll just help you, increase your knowledge, get closer to God. And so if you haven't, subscribe to the channel, follow along, share it with anyone who you think may be beneficial for. And so today we're looking at Matthew 6 verses 16 through 18, and this is just it. Jesus shortly, real in 3 verses, talks about fasting. He just talked about prayer, and so now he's talking about fasting. And I'm going to read this one since it's 3 short verses. And he says in verse 16, "And when you fast, don't make it obvious as the hypocrites do, for they try to look miserable and disheveled, so people will admire them for their fasting. I tell you the truth, this is the only reward they will get." Again, we've looked at this several times where he mentions when people are doing this kind of stuff just for the attention of it, that's the only reward they're going to get is the actual attention they get. That's all the reward they're going to get. He says, "But when you fast, comb your hair and wash your face. Then no one will notice that you are fasting except for your Father who knows what you did in private. And your Father who sees everything will reward you." And so this is an interesting thing because honestly, up until probably the last 5 to 10 years, fasting was really something we didn't talk about much. It was more of a biblical thing. People, Christians talked about doing fasting or fast, but it's kind of interesting. All of a sudden, in the I'd say last 10 to 12 years, what's jumped on the scene is the intermittent fasting, right? Which is sometimes several hours, sometimes a day. But I think that's interesting. But this for different purposes. This was more for you fasted for inner focus, for prayer, and those type of things. But what's interesting thing is there's health benefits to both of it. And what I like about verse 16 is Jesus says, "And when you fast." Right? He's not saying if you fast, and so it's something like I believe the way he says it, and the reason he says it is because it's something we should do. Now, it doesn't mean we have to start off with a 5 day fast. It could be a 1 day, or it could be a several hour fasting that we do. It doesn't have to be this long thing that again like they would do just to bring attention, but it's for our benefit. And there's a lot of studies going into fasting right now that show how beneficial it actually is to fast. And so I find that interesting. But fasting was going without food in order to spend time in prayer. It's noble and it's difficult. Anyone who's ever tried to fast more than a day, you know that it is difficult. And that gives us time to pray. It teaches self-discipline. You've got to be self-disciplined in order to do that. And it reminds us that we can live with a lot less and help us appreciate God's gift. So there's a spiritual aspect to it when we do this. Jesus was not condemning fasting, just like he wasn't, like we talked about yesterday, he wasn't condemning praying in public. It was how you pray in public. And then he's not condemning fasting, it's how you fast. And if you do it for the attention and you go around and you act all miserable all the time and you let everyone know you're fasting, well then that's not the correct reason to be doing it. Fasting was actually mandatory for the Jewish people once a year. It's called the Day of Atonement. We see this in Leviticus 23:32. And the Pharisees, they voluntarily fasted twice a week to impress people with their holiness. It was again, this is what they were doing. They were trying to show off, to show how holy they are. And so Jesus was condemning that because it's that's not the way they should be behaving. It's not the way we should behave. And it all goes back to the condition of the heart. What comes out of our heart, if we're doing things just for the attention of it, to look like we're holy, to look self-righteous, then there's that's all the reward you're going to get. Is that the attention you get is all you're going to get. And so, the idea around this was Jesus was commanding that acts of self-sacrifice be done quietly and sincerely. If you're doing it for the attention, then it's not a true sacrifice. It's not a true worship of God, or it's not a true focus on God. It's a focus on yourself and people focus. So he wanted people to adopt spiritual practices and disciplines for the right reasons, just like we talked about prayer yesterday, not from a selfish desire of praise. And that can be hard because we like to be praised for the things we do, right? If we fast, if you were to fast for 5 days, you'd want people to know you fasted for 5 days because that's an accomplishment. But Jesus is saying, no, don't do that. Don't go out and do things for the attention of it, because that's not what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be giving the glory to God. We're supposed to be giving him the attention, not ourselves. And so we've got to make sure we don't do it. It's human nature to want to brag. It's human nature to want to tell people. I'm guilty of this. I can be bad about this. It's like if I'm doing something or I'm trying something, I want to let everyone know I'm doing it, and just, look what I'm going to be doing, and try to brag about it. But and again, I think there's a line there. I think there's something we can, but when we're doing it for God and for a spiritual reason, then we definitely need to make sure that we're not trying to brag and make ourselves look good and boost ourselves up. So just kind of recap, right? He says when we fast, we're so. I think this is an idea given us that something we should try as Christians is to fast. I wouldn't say it's a direct command, right? That it's something you got to do, but he's saying when you do it. All right, and so I think it's an encouragement there to do it, and that we just make sure we do it for the right reasons and not bring things to our attention. And this applies to really anything that we have, anything that we're doing for God, whether it's prayer, giving, any of that kind of stuff. We need to make sure that we're not doing it for the attention and to try to appear holy and look holy, because I'll be honest with you, there's too many people in churches and religious groups out there who they do things for the appearances of doing things. And we've got to get away from that. We need to do things because we can bless other people by doing it, or it's good for us to pray, it's good for us to give, it's good for us to fast. But we need to make sure we're not doing it to just show off. And there's a lot of that there, and I think social media has lent to that a little bit, right? We've gotten to it's turned a lot of us into narcissists, and so we've got to make sure that we don't do that, and that what we're doing, whether it's fasting, whether it's praying, whether it's giving, that we're doing it for the right reasons, and we're doing it not for the attention to ourselves, but to the glory of God. And that's where we need to focus and make sure that the attention goes to, if we do something, that God gets the attention for it and not us. So again, I appreciate y'all for watching these. I really do. Like I said, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do that. Share these with anyone that you can help with this. I know today's is short, but sometimes it's good to just go have a little small one, a little bit of a break, and then we'll do some of the longer ones. So again, I really appreciate y'all for tuning in. Appreciate you for watching. Thank you.